So, hello friends, welcome to this session. In BFSI, growth depends more on rather than strategy. Growth depends more on execution. Execution at a large scale because BFSI is a very young industry relatively. If we compare with FMCG or manufacturing, it's hardly 30-year-old private sector BFSI, so as to say. And execution depends on people capability. So today we have this elite panel of CHROs. I'll just introduce them. And what we are going to discuss is that how is HR making a difference? How is HR influencing the sales productivity, the cross-sell,
मेरा effort charging नहीं
the cross-sell, the digital adoption, and compliance culture? So let me introduce the panelists. So we have Mr. Joy Banerjee, Head HR, CDSL, Central Depository Services India Limited. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you.
And we have Ms. Priya Prasad, CHRO, People Home Finance.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Amit.
Thanks, Priya. And we have Mr. Ajit Sarangi, Head HR, Aham Housing Finance.
Good morning, everyone. Amit.
Good morning. So, looking forward to a wonderful session. And to start with, because this is a business focused CHRO meeting, so I want to start with a very very interesting question to the panel. That let's say you are CEO of the company. So, what would be that one thing, one operational challenge that you would address, one operational bottleneck that you would address that has nothing to do with the HR? So, if I could ask Joy to share his thoughts on this.
So, see, I think this is an easy question to answer because for CEOs, the most important thing is whether my top line has been met and my bottom line is healthy. So, I think that's the biggest objective that a CEO would have, and where there's nothing to do with people or nothing to do with HR.
So, what are the bottlenecks? Any idea on the bottlenecks which are there mostly that you have seen in your career, which should be addressed? The big one or two pointers.
So the biggest bottleneck is what happens is at a strategic level, like people do understand that, everybody is working for the organization and the objective of the organization has to be met. But then what happens is many a times, like you asked me the question from the CEO's perspective. So the lens that the CEO is able to see, unfortunately, that messaging or that communication most of the times does not get passed down below. So then what happens down in the execution level is that they are working at a different paradigm or a different lens than the lens that has been seen by the CEO. So I think that's where an role is played by HR, where the entire communication and entire alignment to the business and to the personal objective is done. And that's where I think I personally take it as HR plays a very, very critical role in aligning that. So while the bottlenecks out over here is because if you work with large organizations, so you have a large number of people to handle, and then this communication, sometimes it's like the Chinese whisper. So you want to pass on something, but by the time it finally reaches the last line person, it's completely distorted or completely different. So I think it is very, very critical for us to understand that how those communication piece can be done into small snippets so that the messaging which goes to the last line does not get missed. So I think communication is the first bottleneck. The second bottleneck is ownership, which happens both sides. So while from the top line, the ownership is that, everybody should be taking ownership and everybody should be doing it. But at the bottom, the person is saying that I get paid for only this month, so I will take limited ownership. So the person has a very, very myopic vision. So alignment of this two is the critical aspect. So I'll give it two parts. One is communication and second is alignment.
Very nicely answered, Joy. Thank you. Priya, if you could ask you to share your thoughts.
Sure. So, quite resonate to what Joy said just now, and what I have experienced, and particularly in retail world, wherein it's people intensive, and uh, while every organization is wanting to evolve in terms of technology and everything, but what the business wants versus what the management wants, there is a gap in the real sense. And while management would always like to digitize the workflows and automate the processes and make the lives of the frontline people simpler, but taking insights from the real users of these processes and workflows and maybe business rule engines and all those things. It's very important to involve everyone. So involving and engaging with everyone, I feel, is nothing to do with HR as such. It's the flow which has to happen seamlessly across the organization. And if as the world is digitizing each and everything these days, it's very important that business team is talking the same language, and whosoever is there in the organization should have that thought process wherein that innovative or if not innovative, maybe thinking out of the box kind of thought process should be encouraged across the organization. That's one thing I feel, that irrespective of being in HR, not HR, I think it's very critical for the success of the organization. The other thing I feel is that empowerment. And when I say empowerment, it shouldn't be used loosely, but basically enabling your people so that they feel empowered in the system. You should have processes, practices, policies in the organization which empowers an individual to take decision at their level. When I spoke about digitization, it's also about like how data is used across the organization. If it's used in a manner wherein it empowers the individual at the field level to take discrete decisions at their level, as simple as onboarding a customer, very simple, right? But what we have seen, and most of us since come from a similar industry, that the login versus the actual check handover channel, if we all evaluate, there is a huge gap how it starts and where it ends. So that means that there are gaps at multiple levels, wherein how we are assessing our customers, how we are onboarding them, how we are giving them a right kind of employee experience, and how also we are engaging with our own people who are part of this entire journey in the business. So I think these are some of the things which are on top of my mind. Like obviously, like as I said, engaging with respect to technology and data and everything, and then empowering the individuals, which will be very critical for the success of the
Right.
organization.
So I find this very interesting, involving everyone and using innovative tools or techniques to do that. If possible, would you like to share any example which in your career you might have used that, Priya?
So, well, multiple junctures, I would say. It's not so. And I will just share an example from not from my current experience, but maybe in past whatsoever I've experienced. So, being a HR person, I know I had a challenge with, and I think most of us would have experienced at some or the other point of time onboarding our employees, right? You have to provide a seamless experience that creates the right employee experience. And I did an entire project around it, changed the TAT, improvised the TAT, I would say not change, but improvised the TAT to a huge extent. Uh, and you know how I like we went about it. I asked my team member, you have to do a time and motion study where the time is going and how the time is going. You have to speak to people and understand how we can improvise the process. That's when you can, because if you're not talking to your end customer at the end of the day, here the employee is the end customer, right? If you're not talking to them, you will not understand the pain point. Maybe he's not able to understand the flow of the onboarding process. And we could transition the entire thing, and very positively. It was very well recognized by the management also. The best thing and the cherry on the cake was that CEO one day said that, oh, you've actually worked on this, and how did you do that? So I got this young kid from my team, and I told him, you explain what you did exactly. So he explained the entire thing, how he did time and motion study and everything, and he was so impressed. He told the product team that we should use the similar methodology in our customer onboarding process as well. So that was a very simple thought process, but I think simple things also creates a lot of difference in the lives of people. So
Thank you.
here we are.
And now, if I could invite Ajit to share his thoughts on if he would be a CEO, what is the first operational bottleneck that he would address, which may not have to do anything with HR?
I believe both of them steal my point. Okay. But yeah, very much aligned to Priya and Joy, okay, on the thoughts they have shared. One more aspect we forgot, many a time we forget that the customer centricity, the customer experience, and what does customer experience lead to? I see experience, nothing else. Focusing the right kind of experience methods provide to employees in each juncture, it automatically enhance your customer experience. Because if I am happy I'll make others happy. A grumpy guy will make entire system fall, but a happy guy will make around 20 people smile. That is one thing. And HR, we are the custodian of culture. We are the custodian of lot of things. But nowadays, we HR started getting into productivity, started getting into profitability, started getting into various business metrics. Okay. And one of the metrics at current organization is NPA in HR also. How can we change that? So when I talk about that, culture plays a very big role in the table. Aligning the right culture, not forgetting that our internal customer is employees and they are going to make a change to the outer world. What does we can do and what we miss to do a lot of time. We have a anchor grade or anchor population all the time. Like in my earlier organization, there used to be supervisors, there used to be territory manager, here branch managers. But below branch managers, there are people are there. Okay. And the right solutions come from them. Bottom of the pyramid. When I say innovations, it is not always top down, it is always bottoms up. And I give time to them. Not only me, my CEO also gives time to them. Weekly once I meet them, entire population. It is not the grievance handling session. It is not the problem solving session, but it is the hearing from them. We call it feed forward sessions. And these sessions helps us to improve our business metrics.
Very nice.
Okay.
And thanks, Ajit. So, just to summarize, so we have talked about communication from the top to the bottom down, ownership, innovative techniques to involve everyone, and empowerment and working on the culture. Now, all the three panelists, I remember my podcast since all of you are business focused. So you have, in fact, Ajit used to had once gone out to collect payments from the with the as the part of the collection team because payments were not happening. Similarly, Joy, such vast experience in Priya. So thank you. So these answers are very relevant, and people have already started asking questions. But I'll request them to park it for the time being. I'll come back to the question. So next point which I want to discuss is if you could have a case study kind of a thing where you if you would like to share one business metric, a specific business metric pertaining to BFSI, which could be NPS, loan processing time, market share, which you may have improved through an HR intervention. So any specific, and I would like to start with Ajit this time. So any specific intervention, HR intervention, which directly resulted in a business metric in your which you might have undertaken, Ajit.
Few things. Okay, two, three example I give. Okay. First thing is the productivity. When I say productivity, it is market share of the organization increasing, or revenue of the organization increasing, or the disbursement of the organization increasing. It can be done two way. One, open new branches, expand the territories, put more people. Okay, or depend down, enhance the productivity of the people. If they are doing 1 lakh, make it to try ways to do it 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 4 lakhs. Okay, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. How it can be done? First thing is that like 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 we have we bring technology L&D interventions to enhance the performance of anybody. Okay, this in this field what we have did is that we metricize everybody as STAR star. Okay, star means super performer, top performer, average performer, and require improvement. We started working on RNA. How did you working on RNA? Using technology. Like let's say there is a collection guy. Okay. He doesn't know where to go. So and the minimum is that 85 ATR. They need to do it. So there is roadmaps which will help them to do it. Also, there are it will act as a instant manager. Continuously chat on WhatsApp, continuously call and tell that Amit, you need to go this place. Okay, you are going to meet Ajit. If please go and meet Joy also. He's staying 2 kilometer away. It will optimize the route. And also it will read the pattern that when this customer is paid him. Okay. Let's say I am a customer who pays every 29. and you're passing my home, the system will give a note to you saying that, Amit, please go and visit Ajit. He pays on 29, and today is 29. Why don't you meet him once? A courtesy call. That's really important. And these things enhance the productivity of the employees.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Ajit. Priya,
Mm.
if I could ask you to share your thoughts on this.
So, Ajit has put up quite well that productivity is one metrics and which defines a lot of things for the HR and organization. And we'll go a little deeper on that piece. Even driving productivity, I think one of the important element is setting up objective performance metrics. And it's not about only setting up, but also making the person in the till the last mile understand that what does that mean. So, as a practice, since I've been in BFSI for almost 15 years now, wherever I travel to the branches to meet people and engage and connect with them, I always ask the field people, do you understand your KRAs? Half the time I get the answers as no. When I ask, do you understand how will you earn your incentives? People know how to earn incentives. But the difference is in what and how much here, right? So maybe they are just looking at from the how much they can earn from whatever inputs they are putting in, whatever outcomes they are driving, but they are not looking at it how it should be done. Right. So I personally very much believe that it's important that what is to be achieved should be explained and why and how is also very, very important. It's driven by the individual's behavior. Right. It's the behavior basically that you are driving when you are talking about productivity, high performance, low performance. It's the behavior which reflects in the outcome. So it's very critical that we drive the right behavior across the organization. And when we talk about driving behavior, it's important that it's driven from the top. What is right? What is not? What are the regulators saying? What is the compliance ask? Everything, all the elements, not only from the perspective that you have to be a high performer, you have to achieve this much so that you can make this kind of money, but also how and why of the entire process is very, very critical, I feel. And this is something I believe that can really transform the game if it's explained well. And also there are small elements like when we talk about these productivity metrics and performance metrics, there are push elements, there are pull elements, right? People have to understand that correctly, that what is to be driven, explain them well. And these things, I think HR has to always partner. It's very important that I personally feel that I get into the process of setting up incentive along with the business head, and that I've been doing it even when I was not in the role of HR head. And I really appreciate the process, honestly speaking. Not only that, that also gives HR people a lot of insight on how the business has to be done. Otherwise, what happens? HR talks in a language, business talks in a language. You have to talk in their language, right? HR has to talk in business language, irrespective of the industry you are working in. You have to understand the nuances of the business, talk in their language. Because if you are talking about connecting, and when you talk about productivity, it's primarily the ground level people who are driving the productivity of the organization, right? They are the one who are going out in the field, sourcing the business, booking the business, cutting the checks, meeting the customers and everything. So it's very important that you talk in their language, keep things simple for them. Simple policies, like it has to be absorbed by the individuals in the right manner. I'll just give an example here if I have a minute.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, in my previous experience, like we were working out the core values of the organization. Organization had gone through changes, and we thought that it's the time that we drive the uniform behavior and beliefs across the organization. One of the things which we were extremely mindful of, that why we are talking about core values, every individual should understand what does it mean. Also, every individual should understand, and this is again in conjunction of the behavior I spoke about, right? When we are talking about performance, we are driving behavior. It's a culture that drives the behavior, and what is acceptable, what is not acceptable over there, and putting it in a very simple language. So much so we converted it into like 12, 13 vernacular languages, the entire document. in a very simple vernacular language draft so that people can absorb and understand what organization is wanting to say. Otherwise, what happens? It's like people in the corporate office in the management team will live in a different world, or people in the field will live in a different world, and they will never get to meet each other. So the initiative has to be taken by the management to extend hand to everyone and onboard them together in the journey. That's what I just wanted to share.
Very nice, very nice. So I remember in one of my jobs in an insurance broking company, I was handling entire North India. So my national sales head, when he would come, he would go to each branch and he would just ask the current scheme, the current KRA which they are supposed to follow, and that would be his way to measure how good a job I am doing. Is it percolating down all these schemes and all that information? Is it percolating down to the ground level, to the last mile or not? So yes, that's a very very powerful idea, Priya. And also, it is so powerful that an HR person goes out into the field and asks the frontline team members that, do you understand your KRAs? Do you know what your KRAs are? This itself in itself is so powerful. So very nice. So if I could now request Joy to share his thoughts on this.
Now, first and foremost, I think brilliant points covered. I think if the purpose of doing this call is, I think these are the wonderful nuggets, or I would say pearls of wisdom that is there. I think that's been covered. Just to add on to the things that has already been mentioned, so I will just say, uh, to resonate to whatever has been spoken so far, what we did is in the BFSI sector, the most critical aspect is to, cross pollinate the functions, and that has kind of given us a lot of results. So I'll give you an example. The example is, the biggest challenge that people face is, like, sales team don't have time, so they say that I can't send our people for training, and training people always keep crying that my mandates are not getting fulfilled. So it's a challenge that's on both sides. So to address that, what was done is the KRAs got changed. So in the KRAs for salespeople, it was that number of mandates that you have completed was a KRA of the salesperson. And for the training guy, it was that the people who are allocated to you, what is their sales number? So what happened is they started cross-pollinating with each other, and that gives a success. I think that is most critical, that when people do that, I think that gives a lot of success. The second friction area that is always there is, and specifically when you are in a sales-oriented organization, is sales always have a problem with operations. So I think in that, what we need to do is, again, cross-pollinate the KRA. That's step one. Step two that is needed is, I think, very, very critical for every function to succeed, is there is an appreciation for the other. So, appreciative inquiry kind of a workshop which was run by HR, which basically helps in terms of meeting that. And to sum up this entire thing, what is important is that the entire organizational focus is focused on the three P's. So the first P is the potential that the person has. So every person has a potential that person brings to the table. The second thing is the amount of the the productivity that person is going to give you. So that is kind of given, that productivity can be improved, can be changed. And the equation to this is, what is the resultant factor to profitability. So if this has been done, so if profitability is your outcome, you know what is the productivity that is going to come, and you know what are the potential. And if you can work around that, then what you get is the results that is meeting with the organization's objectives. So a formula-based approach, which is like, identify the potential. You know that this person has the potential. You know this person will do this much of productivity. And how is that aligning to the profitability? Once that happens, I think a lot of the questions which come up is, now we have to have cost cutting, now we have to do a reduction in manpower, is automatically negated, because then what happens is the productivity is linked to your profitability, and if you increase profitability and you increase productivity, automatically you need more and more people, so your denominator keeps on increasing, so there will never be a question of you to reduce manpower. Now this has another impact. The another impact that you have is, the people who are working with you, they see a clear career graph for themselves. So if I work, so these are the career graph for myself that is there. Now you can make it even more interesting by adding two more elements. The first element that you can add is, there has to be a career definition. Now most of the time, the career definition that is lost by people is, they see vertical growth. Now if a person joins at the base level, And if we keep seeing vertical growth, so by that logic, by the time you complete 7, 8 years or 10 years in the organization, everybody has to be an MD. Now, everybody cannot be an MD. So what people needs to understand is that the appreciation is to be there for not only for vertical growth but also for horizontal growth. How much are you doing horizontally? How much are you knowing about the organization? While your expertise lies in one particular thing, but are you horizontal in terms of understanding the organization? So that is matrix 1. Matrix 2 is like many a times it is always happening in the sector is like we are always have to listen to somebody who's senior to me. So the mentoring is always that somebody is at a dais and will do a mentoring downwards. I think time has now come where the process that needs to be brought in, and I can give you my own experiences. We have been doing this and we are finding success. Is start implementing the process of reverse mentoring. So in the reverse mentoring, what happens is it is the ownership from the generations which is much more younger is much higher. Now, see, let's not forget we are at a cusp of a place where we are working with multi-generation people. So we'll have people from various generations and they bring in their respective skills to the table and respective challenges also to the table. So the way it has to be articulated into your system is how you can use the best of each so that you get the best results coming out of it. So I think these are the 4, 5 matrices that I would like to bring to table.
Very nice. Very, very succinctly put, Joy. This is such insightful session which is already happening. So one point which you mentioned, the different kind of people we have to ensure that all of them are on the same page. So one question that one keeps on hearing is how to manage generation Z, Gen Z. So I would like like to ask you, in your experience, like you said that you have to manage everybody, and you are at the leadership level, top leadership level in HR. For the benefit of all the listeners, all the participants, how to manage Gen Z?
I don't think so. I think that's a myth. So I think we need to come out of that myth. You don't need to manage anybody. So, like what we are talking about Gen Z today, let's go back. Like I have completed 34 years of my experience. So, when I started working first, I'm sure the people who were working, they were thinking, this is a young guy. How do I manage this person? So, they didn't manage me. So, I saw my career, I saw my growth, and I have taken my path. Somebody must have taken something else, and he or she has taken that path. Now, let's understand what is happening is it is all about that how the upbringings are happening. And in one of the sessions that I do a lot of talk sessions with the young generations, and I have a very open forum with them. So I urge everybody, every leader here, that have open forums, have open discussions with people, and don't be judgmental, and allow them to express what they are wanting to say and hear them out. And you don't need to manage them. Now let's understand the ecosystem that they are growing in. The ecosystem that they are growing in is they are seeing ChatGPT around them. They are seeing Google's around them. They are seeing everything is mechanized. Everything happens at a snap of a button. Everything is instant. So the way the ecosystem operates for them, they see that this is what reality is. So when I go to the life, in my real life, everything will be instant, but not everything happens instant. But that is an experience that everybody will get. So while you deal with Gen Z, I'm telling you, Gen Z are equally responsible. So I think we have to break this myth. We needed to stop doing this conversation of managing Gen Z. We don't need to manage Gen Z. I think Gen Z is what they are. You look at what their ecosystem is, and if you have to really change the ecosystem. So the ecosystem that they come through is work on that. As a parent, are you doing enough so that the person realizes responsibility, the person realizes sharing? Now, in what is happening is this came from a young girl who told me this. She's saying that, sir, you are coming from an age when everything was abundant on India. We are coming from an age where everything is abundance. Can you understand a young girl talking this, and she has such clarity of thought? So do I need to really manage that girl? I don't need to. I think she has so much of clarity because she is so clear about saying that yes, the economic scenario that we had when we were younger or we were kids, at that time everything was abundant. Like everything that used to get in the West abundant, and then it used to come to India. But look at it today, whether you talk about technology, whether you talk about products, whether you talk about anything that's happening in the West, you see it very at the very same moment, even not tomorrow, very next moment happening in India. So you are living in that kind of an age. So with that kind of an age, if you have to manage, my suggestion to all people on this call would be please manage yourself. You don't have to manage Gen Z.
I could very very nicely put, Joy. If I could ask Priya, and then I'll come to Ajit. But Priya first, anything you would like to add to what Joy said?
What Joy said was like amazing. I would say I was absolutely listening to him, and uh, the only thing I can add to whatever he said that we can make it more inclusive, right? The difference when we talk about dealing with multi generational people is that everyone has their share of knowledge, experience, and values to add to, right? We just need to appreciate that with an open mind, and it's important that we all keep an open mind. If we are expecting Gen Z to behave in a certain manner, are we behaving in that manner? Are we inclusive enough to respect that? So, I do not know about others, but being mother to Gen Zs as sir and the teens, growing teens, I experience that every day. And it's a learning. It's a huge learning, which I take back to my workplace, I would say. That if I can't deal with my own children, then how will I deal with the workforce out there who is all like exposed to so much information. And what I've experienced, they're much more informed when they take decisions. They're much more responsible and accountable. The only thing I think they expect is that there has to be openness, there has to be acceptance to their thought process, right? And very rightly put up by Joy, when we were young, were we made to feel that way, that someone is trying to understand us, giving that space to us, that, oh, there is some newcomer who brings in a lot of ideas, will that like amuse or threaten or excite others? No, right? It is part and process of the flow, I would say, that everyone goes in that flow and becomes part of that ultimate Ganga Dhar, I would say, that it's all inclusive word, right? So that's what makes all the difference. And we have to be very very open at workplaces. I have seen amazing feedbacks, amazing inputs coming from these kids, and they're very vocal about it. That's really important, because I think maybe in our generation, when we started working, we were not so vocal, and it's a lot to learn from them. It's a lot to learn from them. They're much more informed and exposed, and I think very sensitive as well.
Very nice.
While many people feel that they are not as sensitive as we used to be, but no, in my experience, I find them very sensitive and very respectful to people around. They understand what they're talking. They know their business.
Very nice. Thank you, Priya. Ajit, if I could ask you to share your thoughts on this topic.
What Joy and Priya said, okay, Joy said that let them be who they are. Okay, in 4 words, and let keep your all the burdens with you. Don't put your burdens and bags with them. That is so simple and stupid, correct? We try to, oh, I used to come to office at 7 o'clock. You might used to come. Come, who has stopped you? I come to office on my time. Judge me on my productivity output versus what time. Don't see time for me. Eric, don't see leaves for me. I'll take leaves. I need leaves. These are the thing, okay? We millennials, we the older generation, I say, we say that no. I need to do this. If you want growth, you need to do that. No, not require always. And other side, we say that reverse mentoring. Either Joy or Priya does that.
Yeah, Joy
I
touched.
seriously take this. Yeah, I seriously take this. And in my team, in HR, I'll tell you, I'm the only one who is 38. Rest everybody is below 25. And the thing they bring to the table, okay, is amazing. What happens? They connect with the population, they connect with everybody very well. That you need not to bother about the escalation and fighting unnecessary stuff and waste your time in unnecessary stuffs. They, this generation is so smart. They don't take intuitive decisions. They take data driven decisions. And that helps the organization to take a leave. If something we need to do, we need to start following them, learning them, and come out of our stereotypes. As rightly said, we need not to manage them. They will manage us well. and they have the capability to do it.
Correct, correct. Very nicely put, Ajit. So we already have so many questions in the chat box. So let's begin with the last point that we are going to discuss as a panel, and then we'll start taking up the questions one by one. So it is somehow related to one of the questions also. This topic that we want to discuss, that how do we manage different? It has been raised by one of the panelists. How do we manage different points of view from business and from people? Let's say one business side is very aggressive. He or she wants aggressive growth, but HR data shows extreme burnout risk. So how do you manage this situation, especially in a industry like BFSI, where in so many divisions like NBFC, like housing loans, there is 30-40% CAGR, aggressive growth, which is required, and which is the, but also on the other side, there is high attrition. So how do we handle this? If we could start again with Joy on this, please.
So I think the most important piece out over here is, as I said, that there has to be a overall understanding and communication across in the entire organization. So we keep on hearing about burnouts, we keep on hearing about aggressive targets, we keep on hearing about that this is too much. But then there is an interesting trend that we need to study. The trend is the people who work in a particular company with this aggressive targets, with this aggressive numbers, with this aggressive burnout, or whatever names you want to give it, they are successful, right? They are constantly succeeding, and they have kind of taken up the ladder, and they have grown in the organization. Yes, you may have some people who say that they were possibly having some biased bosses, and possibly they got some favoritism and they grew, but that cannot be a long term thing. So if people have got a long term success, so they are definitely doing something right. So I think what is important to be identified is, in this same scenario where there are successes happening, what is it that they are doing to be successful? And those needs to be, focused on, and those needs to be harvested. I think that's most important. But what really happens is the focus is completely on, okay, the attrition rate is too high. People are leaving, people are quitting, people are going. So the harvesting is happening on that. But then let's not forget these people who are leaving and going, where are they going? So they leave bank one, go to bank two. They leave bank three, they'll go to bank four. But they are in the same ecosystem. So then it doesn't matter. And while going into the same ecosystem, what they are not realizing is they are going into a system which is going to give them 20%, 30% hike. But the hike comes at a cost. So if you've got a hike, then the company is also expecting more from you. So from a area where you were saying that I'm getting burnout and I go to a different area, there the compensation is so that the burnout is now going to be 2x or 3x. So I think that's not the area that needs to be focused on. What needs to be focused on is, what are the success factors? How is it becoming successful for some people? And what are they doing so that there is success and there is growth? And that needs to be focused for the people. So that's number one. Number two is, I think it's high time that people also realize that just putting arbit numbers is not going to help, and bring it back to the organizational and the multi-generational that we are working in. So in this multi-generational aspect, people want, there has to be some logic built in. Like if you're putting a particular number, I want to do X number of business, which is great. But then how do I do it? I think the how part needs to be focused more on. And once that is done, it is achievable. Now what is happening is, it's a lies both side. It's a lies from up to down, and there's a lie from bottom to up. So in sales organization, what happens? What is the question that a sales manager is asking his team? Kitna karoge? Now the person knows, if I give a particular number, I'm saved for the day. So let me give a number which is an arbit number. He gives away that number. Now he collects that number, goes up, gets to his regional head. The regional head then goes to the national head. So what is it? Lies, 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 lies. Gone up. And now from up, the person will say, अगर मैं 100 बोलूंगा तो कम से कम 50 होगा. तो मैं एक काम करता हूं, मैं 200 दे देता हूं. तो कम से कम 100 तो होगा. Now what is happening is lies, 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 lies coming up. So it's a two-way traffic. It's a two-way traffic, and that needs to be addressed. And somehow some organizations have been able to crack it, but not all organizations, and that's why the burnout, and that's why all these things. But then the time has now come where people realize that what can be done. How many people do a market survey? How many people understand that what is the total market? How many competitors are playing in this market? What kind of a market share are we targeting towards? And based on that market share, What is the number I'm looking at? Rather than that, everybody is looking at a short-term vision. And that's where all the trouble starts. And here is where HR plays a critical role, where HR has to come to the table and say that these are my people and these are, what is it called? Human resource. So this is also my resource, or I can call it human capital. So this is also my capital. So if I have to deploy this capital, let me get the results on that. But this capital, if not rightly deployed, what will happen is there will be depletion. So do you want depletion or do you want appreciation? If you want appreciation, let's work towards how it can be made better, how these people can perform better, what kind of a training is to be given to them, what kind of a support system has to be given to them, and then only they can perform better. Now, simple things like, if you make people's life easy, they automatically then start performing to you. Now, I'll give you an example, which happens in an organization. In an organization, this sales guy who's met up with an accident and he has got a fracture on his leg. What is the obvious thing? He is not going to go for sales call. He is not going to do anything. What does the organization do? Nothing doing. Tum kuch bhi karo, call kar lo, kuch bhi karo, target chahiye. Now, what do you think this guy will do? He will lie till the time he can, till the time he can get his compensation, and then he will resign. So what has happened is you have lost this resource. Rather than that, if you say that, okay, for this time, recover yourself, get well soon, take care of yourself, and this 6 weeks, we will pass on this to the other team members. So the other team members will step in. What will happen is the other team members who have not gone through this would also have a feeling that the camaraderie which is there is so high. One of my teammates is down, he cannot do it, so let him do what he can do, but let us push ourselves to do that. Trust me, they will do more because the morale is high. But what is happening really is you are saying that boss, पैर टूटा, हाथ टूटा, कुछ भी हो, जिंदा हो ना तो काम करो. Then it will not happen. It's not going to happen. And I think time has come where people start realizing this, rather than you getting into the churn with having 20%, 25%, 30% attrition. Rather than that, focus on is what is your employees' real level of productivity? What is your employees' real level of potential that is developed? Don't ask them the stupid question. It's like, I'm reminded of Sholay, in that where the person asks, Basanti, तुम्हारा नाम क्या है? So obviously वो झूठ बोलेगा. Like if you ask him कितना नंबर करोगे, he has no clue कितना नंबर करो. मुझे क्या पता है कौन सा सेल्स होने वाला है. Now you are asking me that, ठीक है मैं दे दूंगा आर्बिट नंबर. अभी के लिए तो बच गया, शाम को देखा जाएगा. So I think we need to break that. It's high time we need to break that. And if we don't break this, we can continue having conversations, we can continue having many roundtables, but nothing is going to come out of it. I think this is high time we need to break this.
Very nice. And it reminds me of my career journey in sales so powerfully, Joy. Very nice. If I could ask Ajit to share his thoughts, and then I'll come to Priya. So, when there are differences between business and what HR can see, how to handle that?
I'll go to good old days. Okay, rain and growth. When there is too much rain, we keep saying that too much rain, my harvest is gone. And when there is too less rain, we say that my harvest is gone. Stress is there everywhere. Correct? It is neither good. We want the exact rain how I want it. It is not possible. And growth and stress are not in the same plate, I'll tell you. It is not aligned to each other. Growth doesn't bring burnout, growth doesn't bring stress to the organization. What brings burnout is that growth, organizational growth versus my growth as an employee. If that if that are aligned together and going hands on hands, there will be no burnouts. We need to start as HR, we need to start seeing not all employees and run a program for all employees. It doesn't work at all. As Joy rightly say, मेरा तो पैर टूटा है भाई, मैं बिजनेस कैसे करूंगा? And I am a super performer last month, last 2 months. Calamity happened to me. Something went happened at my home, something went wrong with me. And you need to be organization, need to come and show the care and respect for me now. I cannot do business. Now I cannot go to field now. Next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think I am out of the thing. Calling me morning and evening will not bring business to me. I'll not give you business. And I'll, okay, एक सुबह का गाली मैं नहीं खाऊंगा, शाम का खा लूंगा, चलेगा. और सुबह का गाली मैं म्यूट करके मेरा फोन साइड में फेंक के तुम चिल्लाते रहो, मैं हूं करता रहूंगा, दूर से कौन सुनता है तुम्हारी बात. So burnout happens when we try to do what is not possible. Burnout happens when my growth, when my this is not when organization growth and my growth are not linear. If I'm let's say there are two employees, okay, one guy is doing growing business on 1x, 1.2x, other guy is doing 3x. We need to see his incentive structure accordingly. There are markets are different in BFSI sector. Like let's say in Mundra, the market is very small versus Chennai. My incentive structure for Mundra will be different. My incentive for Chennai should be different because market potential in Chennai is very high. Keeping that all these thing point in mind, okay, if we design our programs, which will not do the all the employees one, see the all the employees one vision, each individually unique, and we start bucketing that, this burnout will not be there, and the organization will grow very fast. I'll give you an example. We have grown 2x, 3x, okay, and people has also has grown through X3 and their incentive. Okay, I'll give you an example. If a guy does 1 crore, okay, business, he get 1 lakh rupees incentive, higher than his salary. What does it mean? That hey, run for my numbers. You need not to tell me what I need to do. I know my files. I'll get business because this will make me rich. And when I see that I am growing in the career, like the I'm growing the business, I'll run. Myself run. No need to push me in the morning and evening that kitna business ho raha hai. I'll call you and tell you, Amit, I'm doing 20 lakhs today, 30 lakhs tomorrow, 40 lakhs. This one. I have my visibility on my own. You need not follow me in that. And when we align these two metrics properly, we'll get good employees. We'll get our future leaders.
Very nice.
So yeah, this is my limited point, Amit.
Very nice. I remember caring that you shared, Ajit. I remember our discussion that once an employee, some kid was getting married and he did not have support, and then the HR department went there and looked after the arrangements. And also, I remember that caring party discussion that we had. Very powerful. Priya, if I could now
Oh,
ask you,
Amit, sorry, Priya. As you rightly said, okay, we tell our Indian military, okay, it's like, okay, you need to follow the thing, but two, three things from drawn from them, and I always take away from them. First thing is communication. If there is a full stop, if there is a comma, okay, that goes to the last line.
Correct.
I seriously follow that, and I tried multiple times to install that. Because if you install that system, now you are through. Second thing is the growth and appreciations and awards. Third thing is care. If I'm die today, my organization will take care of my family and my colleagues will take care of my family throughout the life. If you create a culture like that, there is no burnout, there is no risk, there is no stress. And so, yeah.
very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Ajit. Priya, if I could ask you to share your thoughts on this.
Well, Joy and Ajit really gave a detailed one, so I can only add a little bit to that. And totally agree to what both the gentlemen said here. And when we are talking about growth versus burnout, uh, growth has to be sustainable growth. It has to be inclusive growth. It can't be like one-off spike which can come in the journey of the organization, right? And when I say inclusive, everyone should grow together. Sabke saath, sabka vikas, as we say. And if that doesn't happen, that's what causes burnout. And when suppose if that kind of situation happens in the organization, and I think most of the organization being sales-driven organization, I do not know about others, but then what I've experienced, like 80-20 ratio of your total exit, 80% will always be sales, right? And 20% will be your other population. That's the usual 4:1 kind of ratio I've experienced in my career. And when we are looking at people leaving, we have to go deeper into it. We can't leave it like that, right? Maybe it's burnout, maybe it's something else, but we need to understand why people are leaving. And it's so important that when we understand why people are leaving, it's discussed threadbare with the business heads, right? What are the trade-offs of people leaving? Whether it's on account of performance, whether it's on account of compensation, better career journeys, and we have to understand, not necessarily burnout can be a reason, but the thing is that is obviously given that in sales there will be stress, there will be pressure, which will be much more than other functions. But uh, why it's happening, whether processes are not well set, whether it's not explained, whether enablers are not in place, are we training our people enough? And just to add to what Ajit also said, that different geographies have different nuances, right? Rather than making incentive structure different, I would say that make credit processes more inclusive, right? It has to be altered as per the geographies, because maybe the targets will then be the outcome of whatever is there. But whatever credit processes are there, if that is set rightly, it's entire business flow, I think, which makes a lot of difference how business has to be done. That is what will. And very interestingly, like recently I was traveling to north with my COO, and we got so much different insights, and we actually made changes in that geography. And the CEO also acknowledged, had I not traveled enough, had I not spoken to the sales people instead of talking to the underwriting people or credit people, I would have never got these insights. Maybe this was coming, hitting us, but then we were not hearing the knock appropriately. We were just we tend to mute noises around us, right? But there can be noises which are making right sense, right? So we have to hear all those small noises across the organization. You never know from where you are going to get insight. Now, coming to the burnout also, like, I think it's very important for HR, as I said, that they have to absorb and reflect upon why this is happening. And it is something, it is not which remains invisible. It gets visible immediately. It gets visible in the attrition rate. It gets visible in the overall retention. It gets visible in the engagement ratios. It gets visible in the overall performance productivity of the organization. It gets visible in some or the other form. Even if the organization is doing very well, and if the burnout is there, it will reflect in some or the other parameter. Trust me. And when you're hearing those small spikes here and there, the small noises here and there, you have to take action as an HR. I would say, like, communication is the best measure in this, that you have to talk to people, encourage them to. Ajit and Joy both spoke about, like, people having health issues and still being forced to do their business. There has to be some amount of empathy, some amount of engagement at that level. And what is also important is that training your first level managers. It can't be possible that a sales head or maybe a CBO is very human, very empathetic person. But is it traveling down below in the daily rush of going to the field and getting the business done? How are we empowering our first level managers? How are we making them the responsible citizen of the organization, wherein they feel that I am the one, that entrepreneurial mindset, these are my people, I have to take care of them, I have to drive them. So that kind of thought process, along with the growth mindset, we have to cultivate at the ground level. How we can do that? More communication, more training, engaging more with them. And in a sales business, I would say it's important that HR people travel as much as business people. If you're not traveling, you're not connecting, you're missing out on a lot of real time experiences, I would say. Right. So sitting only in the corporate office while we are talking, I myself spoke about technology and digitization and everything. But having said that, it can't be a successful matrix without having that human element at the back end. So that's my only point today.
Very nice. Very nice. So in fact, this reminds me, once I was handling 22 years back, maybe, I was handling UP and Uttarakhand for ICICI Lombard. So there, the incentives to the sales officers at the front level would start from 1 lakh of business that time. Now, one guy in Allahabad, I had started the Allahabad branch that year. One guy, he did 19 checks. He picked up 19 checks, but the ticket size was 3,000, 4,000, 2,000. The poor guy did not earn any incentive despite working so hard. And, so what you say resonates so much. So now, very
Just one more thing I would like to add to what you said. So I have also seen like as organization grows, the organization tend to work in silos. There very quiet walls across the business functions. I'm not even talking about HR. HR is maybe the only connecting thread in those situations. Sales will not talk to credit. Sales collections will blame sales. This culture should never be encouraged. And this is the responsibility of the management. This is the responsibility of the HR not to encourage any such behavior. This is a very common phenomenon. Sales blaming to credit, collections blaming to sales. He did that, she did that, and what kind of business they are getting. Blaming technology. Oh, they are not able to deliver this. Oh, they are making the system failed. Month end में system कैसे shut down हो गया. So all those things, very small noises again, right? So it's important to catch hold of all these noises and break them at the earliest before it seeps deeper into the culture of the organization.
very nice, very
Yes,
nice.
Shruti.
Very nice. Thank you, Priya. So now we'll start taking the questions. But before that, if I could take a photograph, a screenshot, if I could request everybody to please check if they can switch on their camera. We'll just take a screenshot for the record, and then we'll start taking up questions from the participants one by one. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very nice. If I could request more people. Thank you. All right. So now coming to the first question that is there. See, there are sometimes gaps in the departments. Different departments have different priorities, and as and they give different directions to HR in hiring, maybe or in promoting. Then how do we? This is asked by Mr. Jaidev Jodi. So how do we handle this? How do we ensure that that uniformity is there? It could be because of they have loyalty towards their subordinates in promoting them, or they want different things. So how to handle that? So anybody who would want
Amit, if you allow me, let me reiterate my question as short and as distinct as possible without dilution. Can I?
uh, very fast, 30 seconds.
Right. So my question to all the three gentlemen is and lady is that what about the gap that exists in the hiring quality people? And there is always gaps in different organizations. Number two, the gap that exists between different departments' priority. Because their priorities are different, that's why they fight. Number three, the power structure that stops collaboration between business units and the tolerance of poor attitude and sometimes results, especially among very senior people. The loyalty in that case becomes the priority for the organization. Isko chalai rakho yaar. Although he is the problem in the organization. So how to handle that? And gaps in promoting based on sometimes loyalty rather than potential and performance. So these are my questions. Thank you.
Can I take the first one? Amit? Yeah. We talk about quality of hires. Yeah. It is not only HR responsibility, but also it is responsibility of everybody in the organization. What is quality? A guy who has worked in 1 month last year and responded EDA quality? Yes, might be for few roles because you are not getting some people there. Do you want to hire that? I'll say no. He is a super performer who is continuously performing and doing month on month uh, 8x business from the target, but had attitude issue. Need to think through it. Correct? We want to take him or not. A manager who is very empathetic, very high on human centricity, but low on productivity. These are a few questions we need to ask. Okay, and there are and in all this bargain, what we do is that simple. We forget, as I say always, that be simple and stupid. Have your hiring grid as such that it will give you productive employees. It will give you high value, high on integrity, high on ethics, high on empathetic employees. You need not to run. We need not to run behind tools. Yeah, but all the time will you be right? No, we will not be right all the time. Out of 100 times, you might make mistake 20 times hiring a wrong person who will not fit your culture. But can we align that? Yes, we can align that. I'll give you two examples. In my first organization, we have deployed a tool named Dotting. What it used to do? It used to give me two anchors. First anchor is that uh, will you be productive on month one? And it used to predict 80% accuracy, 83.22% accuracy. Second one is the will this guy fit my culture? That predictive was 60%. We used to take the people who and used to give me green, red, and amber. I cannot hire only green because if I hire only green, it will not work out. Okay. I cannot hire only, okay, I'll say that I'll give training to amber and I'll hire few percent of the amber. That will also not work out. I need to begin red also because the pool in the market is so much only. So while I hire, I'll take an informed decision. Okay, these are the three things I need to improve. And they are communication and training come into play. Making him align to the culture and align to the purpose of the organization. Then only the employee will succeed and organization will succeed. But current organization, we have a grid and we have a question they are given to hiring manager saying that, can you please answer these related to these questions to understand and rate them. There are training has been given to the managers to identify how empathetic they are, how they will adjust their culture. By this, we take informed decision, saying that okay, this guy lack this two knowledge. This guy is very strong in this. He can mentor some other people. This guy is very lack this knowledge. You can put through somebody else. Yeah. So and here training team always training team doesn't work. Mentoring, reverse mentoring, and peer mentoring helps. So always my peer, I have a friend at work, the same yellow principal. I listen to my friend than a training session. I don't want to spend 1 hour time. A friend will be more impactful than a training session to me. We say no communication is enough communication. So we need to keep drilling down again and again and again. And we need to take this informed decision while hiring.
Can I just add to what Ajit said? So, very deep questions, I would say, Jaydev, and it will be very long discussion if we get into the topics you actually raised in this conversation. So there will be a gap in terms of hiring quality people. I would say, how do you define the quality here? That is important. What does quality mean here? Is it an operational job? It is a highly technical job. Is it a highly skilled job? What are you looking at, right? There will be jobs wherein a normal and average performer will also do, right? When we talk about performers in the organization will always have a mix of all kind of performance levels and expertise. Maybe someone is not a high performer but brings in the right kind of attitude, which is much more sustainable in the organization, much more aligned to the company's cultures and values. And these people stick around also longer. While someone maybe who's racing like really, really fast, they will race ahead of the organization also, right? Rather than joining in the growth of the organization, they will have their own priorities. So, how do we define quality and how do you make people stick along? Is a very detailed debate, and lower in the hierarchies in the organization you will see always see more churn, and there you will be more flexible also about hiring people. But what organization needs to identify what are the non-negotiables for certain roles and positions in the organization, right? Suppose if I am wanting to build my tech team today, I want to strengthen my tech team, I will not compromise even at the ground zero level, even at the ground zero level. But when you are talking about hiring someone in the field, suppose an operations job, right? I'll be okay. Someone understands how the Excel works. Language might not be a priority. If he's able or she is able to communicate to the peers in the vernacular language, also in sales, we hire, right? We don't even see that whether the person understands English or not. So again, the quality is very important. How do we define quality? Someone able to talk very nicely, or someone who understands the business, understands the work, right? Other thing is at the time of hiring, we can be mindful of how has been the past performance. That's usually do uh, in the frontline hiring, because that's where the major gaps are. And when we say the past, performance incentive is one of the metrics, whether the person has been earning incentive or not, whether the exits have been clean or not. That is very, very critical for our organization, whether the person has clean exit or, because that sets a lot of things right for the organization. Someone who has got a red background or red patch in the career, I will say no, a strict no. So there are some of the very small metrics which will vary at different level of hierarchies as you hire people. And also there will be gap between the different departments priorities, I think you mentioned. Obviously, a department will have its own work alignments versus a sales versus credit. There will be different work priorities, different work alignments, and there will be gaps at that level. That's where the role of the HR also comes in picture at certain level and above. Whether very interesting conversation just 2 days ago we had. If a credit guy or if a sales guy is recommending a credit guy at say area level or regional level, certainly the next level will say credit वाले ने recommend किया ना मत करना. So more than quality, the priorities and these micro dynamics will always be in the play. So what is the role of the salesperson over there? You evaluate independently. And we are having this is a real time conversation we had. We said, the business head said, you evaluate independently. You do your set of reference check. If the guy is good, please hire. You don't have to worry whether it comes from a credit reference or a collections reference. So that kind of communication, keeping those communication channel open is, I think, the power struggle at the business, different business geographical levels will stop if that is driven from the top, if that's driven from the management team. I think while most of the hirings happen at the field level and they are the decision makers, it's important that what behaviors we are trying to drive as the organization. And that's again, I'm coming back to the values, that what we are wanting to have as an organization, what should be the DNA of the organization, that is more important. Quality, I still feel, can be little here and there and can be managed over the course of time. And it's important that we are getting new incumbents, we give them time to settle down, we help them understand the processes, practices in the organization, and that will and again, this is very, we had a very detailed conversation in the leadership team recently, and I'm coming from there, that can we be an organization wherein we are not restricted to hiring from HFCs only? How can we open our talent pool to other industries, and how we make them successful in the organization? That will be the real, I would say, success for us in creating the right talent density for the organization. And this was coming from our business side. This did not come from me, honestly. This did not come from the CEO. And a very inclusive thought process, and everyone echoed the sentiments. It's just that someone needs to voice it out. Coming from HR, ना हो जाता है कि अच्छा, it has become a guiding principle करना है. But if this comes from the business teams, the other business heads, and that's why it's important to have that kind of thought process at the top, which encourages these kind of thought process, and that solves a lot of problem for the organization. Uh, Tolerance for poor attitude and result, I think it can only happen to certain level, Jaideep, as Jaidev, you were asking. So uh, poor performance, bad attitude will start showing up. It can't be protected beyond a point. That any kind of toxicity in the organization, any kind of biasness, it speaks up for itself. And if it's not backed by the right attitude and performance, it will fall apart. So I think the mechanics have to be set right in the organization where these things get exposed. Right? There has to be right amount of objectivity. Has to be right amount of metrics, right amount of communication and engagement, which exposes any such gaps in the organization.
Thank you.
That's it from my side.
Thank you, Priya. So, Joy, please allow me to move to the last question because we don't have time. So, in the world of AI and automation, do performance metrics or do performance frameworks, do they need to be redesigned? Because KPI and KRAs, they are, automation with automation, they are changing. How do we handle this? Last question.
So I am mindful of the time, so I keep it short. So before I go to the question, I think I'll just leave one thought for all of us. I'll answer the question, but I'll just leave one thought for all of us is while we were talking about like the pointers that were raised by Jay, they were pretty serious and pretty important. But one parting thought I would keep on that where Priya spoke about is I think the time has come when retention has to be focused on. So retention is the new recruitment. I think the moment we start picking up that tool, a lot of things change. So then people will start focusing on everything else because what is happening is now recruit, recruit, recruit. Rather than that, retain, retain, retain. So moment you start retaining, then all other aspects come into place. Coming to your question, I think AI is an and, it's not an or. So AI is to be used as an and for all of us. So it is an enabler for everything. So whether KPI and KRA is to be redefined or they need to be restructured is the function of what the organizational goal is. It's got no direct relationship with AI. AI is an enabler. AI has to be used as an enabler for your business and for your growth and for your own personal development. It cannot be that AI is going to be your productivity tool. It will enhance your productivity, but it is not the only productivity tool. So that's how the objectivity has to be looked at. So I'll keep it at that.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. So, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. And let me inform you that the next roundtable is on 25th of April, and this is with manufacturing CHROs. So, all of you, we will inform you. And in case you might want to join that, you can register. So, thank you, panelists. Thank you, participants. Thanks for joining and having such a fruitful and informative discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you
Thanks,
everyone
Amit,
for
for
joining.
coordinating.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for this
Thank you.
Everyone.
wonderful
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.